Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today? Today we're going to be discussing a sad event that happened on February 18th, which is today was Whitney Houston's funeral. Today we buried a diva, a phenomenal singer, a voice that we all love and embrace and has been such an inspiration in our lives. And today we're going to be discussing about that funeral and what it was like. Um, I want to first start off by saying that, you know what, no matter what happened at this funeral, no matter how many fans waited, no matter the millions of people who wanted to see Whitney, the idea was that Whitney is finally resting in peace. It's rather sad because, in every funeral, when you see these things, it's very emotional and it can get emotional. It can be inspiring, yet at the same time, very heartfelt. This particular funeral was interesting because, for a Baptist funeral, it was rather long, but something, it did make its point. It was entertaining to watch. I don't mean to say it like it's like a concert show. I more saw this as, what, I looked at some of the events that was happening for the funeral. I've seen fans talk to Ryan Smith earlier, and there were fans that were expressing to CNN and various news outlets talking about this funeral. And I have to tell you that my criticism, I'm going to get to that a little later about what I thought, what was wrong with the funeral. But I will start off with the good points that, number one, this was a very heartfelt funeral. And why do I say heartfelt? Because I felt like this particular funeral, you really felt the people who really love Whitney. I mean, especially from Kevin Costner. I think if you had to pick someone from the celebrity world who really expressed a true feeling of how much they will miss that particular person, which is Whitney Houston, it's got to be Kevin. I mean, his sermon was funny, yet it was very, very inspirational. It was very spiritual, like a lot of the stuff that's being said about Whitney, that she was a very spiritual woman. But Kevin also talked about a side of her that I think we all knew, which was she was very insecure about herself. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, how does this insecure, beautiful woman have that kind of problem and with such a great voice? You know something? We all have to understand that even entertainers, athletes, or artists, wherever medium or whatever speech you're giving or whatever type of whatever you're doing in your life, I'll put it this way, you have to understand that, everybody has some sort of insecurity about themselves. I'm sure people get insecure when they're trying to do a YouTube video, just to say, I want to get my point out, but I don't want people to think that. Just like I admire people who can sit up front and be themselves and have a camera look at them and tell them, hey, what, this is how I feel about Whitney. I can't do that because I'm the type of person, I like to be behind the scenes. I think that's my comfort zone. My comfort zone is talking to you all behind this picture, even though it's an evil, wacky picture, but it's a picture that makes me feel comfortable and it makes me express what I want to say without being nervous about it. Now, here's Whitney, who never is not doing what I'm doing, which is she stands in front of an audience, sings her beautiful voice, and yet she was even nervous. She even prayed to God that she wouldn't disappoint everyone. And especially when he talked about the song I Will Always Love You. I think what made her so nervous about that song was because this was a song that was already sung before. She wanted to make sure she got it right. I'm sure Whitney went into every song thinking, you know what, as long as God is in my heart, I could sing these songs beautifully. And Kevin Costner gave a beautiful eulogy about Whitney. I think of all the celebrities that were up front, Kevin Costner definitely was number one. Don't get me wrong, the pastors, they were good, and some of the some of the sisters that were singing on and talking about Whitney, they were good too. But Kevin is definitely number one because it was so human. And I think why I like Kevin was because he talked about her insecurities. The insecurities were there. She basically was not secure enough to say, you know what, I'm confident that I could do this song. But you know what, she feared that she wouldn't do it correctly. And I like that Kevin talked about that because sometimes I think, you know, like one of Whitney Houston's guard made this powerful point that entertainers give their lives to put a little joy into our heart. And because we criticize them so deeply, like if you look at the trials and tribulations of Whitney, the internet was not good to her at all. Anybody can film Whitney, put it on their YouTube account, and say, you know what, this is how she really sounds. And you know something, I'm sure that devastates. I mean, don't crucify your entertainers so quickly, is what he was trying to say. Because sometimes I think what happens is that they're sensitive people too. Yes, I understand that you pay a lot of money and you want to see a great concert. And you know something, even though they're trying to give you the best concert, sometimes the best concert is not always what you're going to get, but it's just the idea that at least they were there to entertain you. And I really felt like, you know what, there was a lot of like spiritual speeches going on. There was a lot of inspiration going on with this funeral. A lot of people who got up on the podium talked about how we need to reevaluate our lives, have to say, you know what, you know, don't love a damn man. This is how I personally feel. Don't love a man harder than you love yourself, because that's part of also the problem. They may not have said it like that, but you know something, I'll say it for them, that don't love a man harder than you love you. Love you first. Because that was part of Whitney's problem, that I'm surprised no one got up on the podium. And you know something, you know, I'm going to get to Bobby Brown in a minute and some of the criticisms, but I had to tell you that the funeral was very inspirational. A little too long for me. I know some people criticize the Catholic religion as, well, you know what, the Catholics are basically, their sermons are not as great as Baptists. You know something, it's not about what sermon is great and what sermon is not, what is good and what is not bad. It's the idea that, you know what, this is what Whitney was into. This is how she got her inspiration. This is how Whitney wanted to be buried. She basically wanted to go back home where she started, where she ended up, and where she now is laid to rest and in the hands and in the house of God. And you know something, I know that Catholics don't have that type of entertainment the way that Baptists do. But you know, one of my couple of criticisms that I did have with the sermon is that it was a little too long. I think that in Baptist sermons, they run their eulogies and their sermons and their I guess their way of religion kind of long. Like Catholics, all we need is an hour. Like if we even have a funeral, the funeral is even that long. We stick to our timeline. Baptist churches, they kind of, you know, the sermon was supposed to be 2 hours. It went to almost 4 hours. So I understand you get into it, and I know it didn't seem like 4 hours, but trust me, this was 4 hours, because now what's going on now is like I'm watching CNN and they're kind of replaying what's going on with what happened in the service, and how, you know, Kevin Costner and Clyde Davis and some of the people who knew Whitney in her life, you know, they were talking. But you know something, people get hungry, people get tired. Believe me when I tell you, it's not a disrespect, it's just, you know what, I don't think you need a sermon this long. 2 hours would have been perfect enough to say what you wanted to say. And yes, it did get emotional for some people, and it went a little longer than expected. But at the same time, you know, I thought that it could have cut short to 2 and just stuck to the timeline. Another problem I have with the service too was, another problem that I have with the service is that I thought that some of the celebrities could have talked better about Whitney. Like, for example, you take Alicia Keys. I've always known this about her is that Alicia Keys is another one who's got a brilliant voice. She can sing like an angel, but again, she can't articulate what she's saying, because I didn't really understand where she was coming from. Because if you listen to how she was speaking, she was talking about how Whitney and her would have like sort of like little pet names for each other, and something, it just was like you really didn't understand what she was trying to say. So I said, okay, you know what? I didn't expect much from Alicia Keys, but she did make up from that beautiful song she sung. But it did sound a little husky, a little bit. But something. But it did make its point. I mean, she really put her heart into it, and maybe some of it was because she was crying a little. But Alicia Keys didn't really have much to say. Clyde Davis was another one who was more talking like business. I mean, he gave another dry eulogy. I mean, I honestly, again, like I said, Kevin Costner's eulogy was the best out of all of this. I mean, Kevin, he might be an arrogant ass, and he may not like the paparazzi and taking the pictures of his private life, but come on, I mean. This dude really put his heart into it and really gave a speech that the way I think it should have been. And there were a lot of people who went and sang and gave their heartfelt condolences to the family, to Sissy, to Bobby Christina, and all the family that was sitting in the front row. I noticed that Bobby didn't sit up in the front row, and like I said, when I got to him, something. Bobby did the smart move. A lot of people might criticize Bobby for not going up to the forefront, but I give him credit. He was smart not to be in the front row with all the other celebrities, because I'll tell you why. It had nothing to do with him making a scene. I think in his heart, he knew in his heart of hearts that, everybody that was going to hug on the family wasn't going to hug him. That'd be like saying, well, you know what? Say I'm the man that brought Whitney. That'd be like, okay, I'll give you a different example. That'd be like if you had a funeral for somebody, like say someone that died at Columbine, and the people who are at the front row with the families is the Columbine family's killers. You wouldn't want to hug and kiss them. You basically felt like, well, this is the reason why we're here now. And in a way, that's how Bobby kind of played it too. I think Bobby just figured, you know what? I wanted to show respect and being there, but I really wanted to be next to my daughter. And something, yeah, you was married to her, but you know what? You put her through 16 years of hell, and something. I don't think Kevin Costner was gonna go up to you and shake your hand. I don't think Alicia Keys was gonna go hug you, or Stevie Wonder, or anybody else that was invited to the funeral. I think the problem that Bobby just has to understand is that Bobby definitely brought Whitney down. And yes, you know what? She had her demons and she was talking to the devil, because as we all know, the devil does talk to you. The devil didn't go to hell by himself. And sometimes I think what happens is that Whitney loved this man so hard. Sometimes, and again, this is why I keep telling people, don't love a damn man harder than you love yourself. Because no man is worth 16 years of BS. I'm talking about this man. When I saw the interview with Oprah, and basically when she confessed that Bobby Brown on his birthday spit on her. I'm talking about literally spit on her. That goes to show you that no man, he wasn't even grateful enough for what you did for him. You paid his bills, you paid child support, you got him out of jail, you put up with all his infidelities, you put up with him disrespecting you, he was jealous of you, he didn't know how to handle your success, and then when you gave him money, he acted like it was owed to him. He even thought that the child support, he had the nerve to come to Whitney talking about your child support is late, and that's his kids. So, I think that people have to understand that Bobby did the smart move by not sitting up front with the family. It's better that you say, you know what, my family, let them have their time. I'm going to be back in the cut, and just say, you know what, at least I was there. And I'm going to be honest with you, Bobby, and again, like I did in previous videos about you, dog, you really got to step up to the forefront now. You can change this whole scenario today by going to the forefront and saying, you know what, don't ever meet a man like me. Because if you meet a man like me, I will bring you down. And you know something? Whitney didn't understand that I was already on drugs, and I couldn't convince myself to get rid of him, but I had to bring her down. I was jealous. You know, if you admit all this, you would be on the cover of People tomorrow morning. You would be on the cover of Entertainment Weekly. People would respect that because people know that's what you did. But at the same time, though, like I said, and I'm gonna make my final point because I know that you can get very emotional about this. I mean, the thing that, like I said before about A Damn Man, I know that Whitney was a wonderful human being, and she saw the good in people, and she just didn't understand that sometimes you can't make Boo happy. Once you have a man in your life that's treating you like that, if you can't tell yourself to get rid of him, then he's not worth the time or the effort. And the sad thing about how much we love A Damn Man is that, you know what, if we just tell ourselves that, you know what, I love me, that's who you need to love first. And the trials and tribulations of Whitney Houston's life show that. I think the learning lesson that I will remember about Whitney throughout this whole experience, in the 2 weeks, in the documentaries, and the funerals, and what I saw in this human being is this. The learning lesson that I think people need to understand about Whitney Houston's life is this. You can accomplish anything in life. That means anything. You could be whatever you want to be and reach the highest mountain. But you also got to be careful while you're reaching the highest mountain that the devil is talking. Please do not have the devil in your heart. Don't tell yourself that, you know what, the devil is what the devil wants you to be, which is, destroy your life, fall for those temptations, go marry a man that doesn't love you for you. Because let me tell you something, the devil is always busy. I know I don't mean to get spiritual, and I know people are probably saying, why is this guy talking about the devil so much? We have to talk about the devil because she herself believed that she was the devil, and she wasn't. That's just the devil talking to her the way that the devil always does. Because remember, the devil is the guardian of lies. He will tell you any lie to make sure that he goes to hell with him, because he doesn't want to be there by himself. I'm not talking about those evils, people who are already evil and embrace it. I'm talking about Whitney had two spirits. She listened to God, but God was testing her to see if she would listen to the devil, and she did. And I think at the end, like my mother was telling me this morning, that, you know what, sometimes at the end God calls us to tell us to come home. And I think at the end of this whole experience, I think that after we bury Whitney and after we treat her with the dignity and respect, we just want to be able to say, you know what, God is a very gracious God, because he doesn't let you go through suffering the way she did. We heard the most angelic voice in my lifetime. My daughter is going on 6, and my son just turned 13, so I hope that when my children grow up, that they will have someone in their life that sings the way Whitney did, but there will be nobody else that will ever sing like the way she did. I mean, when you hear songs like All at Once, or One Moment in Time, which I think is a beautiful song, or like I Will Always Love You, or Didn't We Almost Have It All, or Run to You, these are just some of the songs that you say to yourself, my God, whoever is singing this, heaven must be this beautiful. And you know something, Whitney, I know that you went through your demons and you went through your insecurities, but you know something, you did go home. You went home, and you basically will sing the most beautiful song to God. And when you see God in heaven, tell him for us that, you know something, his heaven, his paradise must be beautiful because it was sung through you. So, you know something, I thank you for that, and I thank you for showing us that talent can be achieved in the greatest of ways, but it's also to keep God in your heart and never listen to the demons and never listen to the devil, because he's always going to be busy. But always tell yourself, if you have a guardian devil, which is someone that's like someone spiritual, because I always have a guardian devil myself. Basically, it's a spirit that basically fights off the demons. Tell yourself that, you know what, I have someone in me, in my heart, and that's Jesus. Jesus will fight them off, and that's how you win. So, this is a beautiful sermon, and it was. And you know something, as I call it, and hit me up with your comments, tell me what you think, and like I said before, you know, keep God in your heart. Don't love a man more than you love yourself, because like I said before, a man like Bobby Brown, he will have to pay for his sins when his time comes, but love yourself first. And I think if Whitney loved herself and didn't really have to worry about what the world thought, then you know what, she probably would have been here with us today. But because you listen to demons and you're listening to temptations and you see the world, sometimes we don't say to ourselves, you know what, I need to keep God in my heart. And that's what's mostly important. And that's the thing that I'm going to tell my children, that, you know what, keep God in your heart and know that no matter what you're going through, even if you're at the lowest of low, just tell yourself that, you know what, God is in my heart. I'm going to go to church. I'm going to embrace it. I'm not going to throw him away because my life is not going the way it is. It will get better if you keep him in your heart. And remember, live your life every day. You know, so don't live your life as it is the end of it. Because if you live your life like it's the last day and you want to live it like it's the end, then that's being irresponsible. Just tell yourself when you wake up in the morning, tell the people in your life you love them. Tell your children that you love them. Tell God you love them. If you're not a spiritual person and you don't believe in God, then just tell the people you love them. You know, just tell your mom, your dad, someone in your life that shows you respect, that loves you, that says, you know what, I love you and I thank you for being in my life. And I don't ever want you to ever forget that. Because I think that's the thing that we need to keep in our hearts, is knowing that the greatest love of all is telling someone you love them. So, take care of yourselves all. I hope you all have a great weekend. You know, remember, like I always say, use your mind. It's your best weapon. I will talk to you all later. Take care of yourself. And Whitney Houston, rest in peace. God bless you. And thank you for what you've done in music and what you've done for our lives in terms of inspiration.